what she was talking about.
All right, good evening, everybody. Teresa, thank you for inviting me back. I'm glad to do this for a second time, and I want to congratulate everybody who's written a book and is here tonight with us. It's really great to be in the same room as all of you and learning about your stories and what you all have gone through. It's really inspiring. So, my name is Russell Goodacre, and I wrote the book Tackling Dyslexia to Learn Disabilities, a memoir about myself. I was diagnosed with dyslexia at the age of 3 when I was in preschool. I had, on top of my dyslexia, reading comprehension issues, auditory processing, and problems socializing with my fellow classmates. I was diagnosed by my preschool teacher, so she told my parents about the early steps that she was noticing, what was going on, and then we got more testing, which later confirmed what was going on with me. So for the next couple of years, we did, a lot of like one-on-one work with the teachers. We tried to do public school for 1 year. That didn't go too well because I'm from Frederick, Maryland. They've gotten better with their special education department, and at the time, I really struggled, and we went to court, and we later won my case. So I got to get funding to go to the Lab School of Washington in DC. The Lab School of Washington was a school created by Sally Smith. In the 1960s, she had 3 sons. Her youngest son, Gary, had dyslexia and other forms of learning disabilities, and she couldn't figure out a way how to get her son to learn in the proper school setting. So she created this school and invited other kids in the neighborhood of DC to come there, try this new adaptive learning style, and see what would happen. So with this, when her son Gary was having birthday parties, it was the first time that Gary could recall events with themed parties like Pirates or Knights and Ladies or God's Club. So this method would become called the academic club method, which would be the foundation of what lab school students would learn throughout their entire time there. I went there from the 2nd grade through high school. And when I was there, obviously going from Frederick, Maryland to DC, the commute was rough, as we all know. It's, going to DC, traffic sucks, to put it nicely. And then, going back and forth, got a lot of help from my parents, just, because they work in the DC area, so that was convenient. And when I was there, I got one-on-one speech and language, group speech and language, occupational therapy to help with my fine motor skill as well. So I was very thankful for that. And when I was there, I learned that there are kids like me, who couldn't read or struggled with math or other academic skills, but they also came from different backgrounds, whether it was diversity of race, religion, socioeconomics, political backgrounds. So we all had that common goal, also that same difference at the same time. So we all had both ends, which I thought was really cool. It helped me in my upbringing learn what was going on and all that unique stuff. So as I got older, I got really into sports. Well, when I say older, I remember like 5, 6, 7. So sports is like my escape, pretty much. So whether it was playing, watching, listening, that's what I always attached to. And I always thought that I wanted to play sports, going all the way into professionals, but played through high school, played soccer, baseball, basketball, track and field, and golf. So I was very active, to say the least. Whether it was down in DC at my school or back playing recreation and travel ball up in the Frederick area, and a lot of bouncing around. So I give my parents a lot of credit for allowing me to do that stuff. I was also in Boy Scouts. I made Eagle Scout when I was 14, so I was very active in my community as well. By the time I was looking for college, sports was the way. So we were like, how am I going to succeed in college? One, we were looking for small schools, and also we realized there's this thing called the academic common market, where you can go to a school out of state, but for in-state rates if they don't offer your major in your home state. So as we were looking, we found this one school, and it turned out very well. That school was Shepherd, right up the road from here. Yeah, very special place for me, and one of the things I talked about in my book was when I got there, if you would have asked me what I was able to do, I would have said no. So what I was able to do was, in the end, through the help of the Disabilities Services office, where I struggled with test taking, because I would always get really antsy, where if I studied a lot, I'd take all this information, one of the tests would be right in front of me, everything would go from one ear out the other, I would just like freeze and blank. So I would get time and a half, a room to myself, so I could just focus in more. And then the Trio Sports Services office at Shepherd was very influential in my academic progress, because they got to allow me to do early registration for certain classes, and just extra tutoring on the side if I needed it. That was very beneficial. And along with working with kids with learning disabilities, they help with kids who are first generation background and low income family backgrounds as well. So they were great. And then part of the coolest things I got to do was outside of the classroom was I was a part of the Shepherd football program for 3 years as a student assistant quality control coach, where I coached the offensive line. I also did a lot of laundry, equipment, and filming on the side. So I did a lot of the behind the scenes work, which was very beneficial because in that time we went 36-3. We won 3 Mountain East Conference championships, 2 Super Region 1 Final Four appearances, and then in 2015, the highlight of probably everyone's time at Shepherd during that time was we played for a national championship in 2015 in Kansas City. That was a really awesome time. We get to see how this whole community embraced us, and it was truly a special experience. And with that, you know, I could not have been more thankful for my time at Shepherd, especially the football program. I did a radio show for a year and a half, was a co-sports director of the station. So a lot of things that Shepherd kind of provided me was stuff that I take along with me for the rest of my life, which was how I want to live, the great community feeling that goes on. That it always stuck with me in that regard. After that, I started grad school originally at Shepherd, where I helped in the TRIO Upward Bound program, which helped high school Berkeley County students who came from low income and first generation backgrounds, just kind of help them, you know, look for college opportunities, give them tutoring, just kind of expand their horizon. You know, if they want to go to college, we can be a resource for them. So we have to do that as well. And then I realized that, you know, I wanted to stick in sports, so I went to Georgetown for grad school. So I went back to DC. That was really awesome in, you know, getting to do that, build my horizon, learn from a lot of amazing individuals, from students who came from other small schools, bigger schools, domestically, a lot of international students too, so I got to learn a lot from everybody in that regard as well. And then, but during my time at Georgetown, there was a thing called the COVID pandemic that took place, and everything, you know, kind of went upside down, and we all had to adjust to it, and we all did. Going from, you know, in person to online wasn't really a problem. And then by the time I graduated in December of 2020, my mom and I, we were just sitting there looking back. I was like, wow, you really accomplished a lot. This is really fascinating. And, you know, and then I was out of nowhere, you know, half-hearted, was like, you know, maybe I'll write a book. And she's like, go for it. I'm going like, we'll see. You never know. So, but during this time, I was also working in the public health industry, because that was one of the industries that was really needing help, that needed help across the board, because, you know, what the world was going through. And a few months later, I was really struggling because of the work I was doing. I was stuff I never studied for, never done before in the past, and there was a lot of technical things I needed to work on, so I was really stressed, frustrated, got a lot of harsh feedback from my supervisors at the time. So, you know, I was sitting back with my sister at my house at the time, and we were watching the Orioles play a baseball game, and I was just like, you know, I'm gonna give this thing a shot. So, the next 9 months, I wrote a rough draft of my book, and it was really fascinating just to learn, you know, how to really write a book, especially for somebody who never did it, like, who struggled with reading and writing as a kid. It's like, who in their minds would ever think someone would actually try and pull this off? And, you know, later on, you know, 234 pages, over 115,000 words, and a lot of touching memories, reaching out to a lot of friends who, you know, like, asked for their permission to be in the book. There's a lot of fun stories and memorable things, and just a lot of thank you and gratitude for everything. So I wanted to make sure I wanted to, like, say thanks. It was more of a way for me to say thank you to them, and also, you know, decompress, you know, and yeah, just a lot of that. Just, you know, I was stressed out, I was frustrated, you know, with a lot of things, and of course with, you know, with work frustrations, you want to try and, like, get away from the work stuff when you're at work. But with COVID going on, it was pretty damn impossible, if we're being totally honest. So that was a great escape for me in that regards. And then, you know, we did about 9 months of, you know, the editing process. 9 months of writing, a year or so of just keeping it to me and my family. I know Teresa mentioned about earlier how friends can sometimes be kind of troubled editors, but with my family, we were totally amazing about it. You know, I wrote the whole thing. They just made some suggestions, you know, take out this, maybe this part might be a little bit over the top, so like let's talk about this. You know, they didn't take out, but like we talked about it. Or this is really cool, this is great. Maybe add some more about this part here and there. It's like, okay. So we did that, and then by the time I was ready to launch, I had a couple goals. One was I want to make this as accessible as possible. So along with the paperback version of it, there's the ebook version and audio version. The reason why is because I want people like myself who struggle in reading to make it as easy for them to be able to access as possible. Because obviously some people have trouble reading a physical copy with dyslexia. some people can go on their computers or their tablets or any smartphone device and say, hey, I can go to my Apple Books and say, hey, I can pull this up and I can read from there, or use assistive technology to do it for them. And especially with the audiobook too, so making it as easy as possible for them is like the most important thing in terms of like getting access to my book. And then with that, the biggest goal I had was I wanted to make sure that somebody was going to be impacted in a positive light with my book. So, and I think, looking back at it, I definitely have done that, because I've been fortunate that I've had over 125 people buy my book, which I find absolutely astonishing. I never really thought I'd make that much in terms of like selling, but there's been a few reviews, people who call me who say like, this is like really cool and really inspiring. There's two in particular that really stand out to me in terms of like how this really affected them. One of them was one of my college roommates. His name is Josh. He called up and was like, yo, like this is like insane. This is really incredible. This is like this is on my bookshelf next to like David Goggins and other influential motivational writers and stuff like that. He's like, I'm really impressed that you include all these people, how they impacted you. It makes me think more about it, what I do, because he works at Flood 93 National Park as a park ranger, and obviously with this week being the anniversary of 9/11, so it really sticks out to him as well. And it made him think more, like this is really impressive, and I really appreciate you like putting this into perspective for a lot of people who could use this possible. The other person was a guy named Jeff Siemba. He was the starting quarterback at Shepherd when I was there. And I mentioned a story about him where going into my junior year, second year with the team, I got the training camp that we had in the summer about a day late because I had some obligation I had to attend to. So I got there around lunchtime, and at D Hall, if you guys know the Shepherd Dining Hall, there's two ends. Obviously the one end is like towards the river, the other end is like by the football field. So he's sitting at the other end by the exit. I'm walking in. He sees me. He's like, "Hey, good to see you," and whatnot. And I'm walking. It's like, "Yeah, good to see you." And like, for some reason, the whole room just started like doing a whole standing ovation. I'm like, okay, I'm doing a standing ovation for coming back. This is cool. Thanks. So I'm walking around doing my food, and everyone's like, "What was that about?" I don't know, but it felt nice. So last homecoming, when he saw my book and he read it, he told me, I cried. I remember I was like, wow, I did not realize I would make somebody cry, and that was not on my bingo card for reaction, but it meant a lot. So I was very glad to see that somebody really appreciated that, and it's really cool. I've been thinking about this a lot too, but like this is probably the only book I'll ever write, because with it being very personal, there's a lot of emotions, good, bad, and different, that come out of it, and because of that, in talking to family and friends, it's like, it's hard. And I'm glad I did it, especially with, my struggles with reading and writing. It's like, I don't know if I want to do that again. So, but I'm glad I did it and get to share my story with everybody here. And for those who are willing to listen and take this on to, if you know somebody like me who may not appear to have a problem with reading or writing or any learning disability, this could be good for you to learn too. Maybe like if you want to like share with somebody, hey, I know somebody or I met somebody who wrote a book about it. This can help you out maybe. And if that works too, then that's part of my goal as well. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. And Teresa, again, thank you for everything that you do and inviting me back. It's meant a lot. And thank you very much.